against one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. (4.01) Public comments on agenda items. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to listen to public comments. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we chose to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. The board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designated to be debated or dialogued. Please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your comments and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. Any question from the public should be submitted to the use of public comment form, which may be obtained online or at the desk with the district clerk. We have the proper staff members to get back to you as appropriate. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, Hello? I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to address any comments or questions about specific students or school personnel. We would ask you to go to the appropriate administrative channels. A total of 30 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting is set aside to allow for public comments on agenda items only. Public comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited only to agenda items only. Persons who wish to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting are asked to provide their name and the specific agenda items about which they wish to speak. Individual comments on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes and are welcomed. If you wish to address items related to our school district that are not on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. In the interest of civility and respect for different points of view, clapping, booing, or any disturbance or disruption during public comment period is not permitted. At this point, take any comments from the community regarding any agenda items, if there is any. If you have anything, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Burns, and I'm a parent in the district. I live in Hopewell Junction.
Please speak closer to the microphone if possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Alicia Burns. I'm a parent in the district. I live in Hopewell Junction. I'd like to address agenda item 6.04, which is the approval of the minutes from the March 14th, 2022 meeting. During that meeting, agenda item 10.03 was added to the agenda at the end of the meeting to remove Genderqueer by Maya Kobabi from the shelves of the high school libraries at John Jay and Ketchum. I appreciate the board, Dr. Bonk and Dr. Cardwell, all responding to my request for further information regarding this action, including the report from the Instructional Review Committee. During a time where there are coordinated and targeted attacks on public libraries and access to materials, I'm here tonight to respectfully ask the board to revise Board Policy 1420 and for the board and Dr. Bonk to consider the expertise of the Instructional Review Committee for future challenges to instructional or library materials. Board Policy 1420, complaints about curricula or instructional materials, does not have a residency requirement attached to it. The Board of Education and district requires a residency requirement to vote for the budget, vote for Board of Education members, etc. So why is there not a residency requirement to speak at a Board of Ed meeting or to challenge and possibly remove materials? Without a revision to this policy, anyone is able to challenge materials. Aside from the censorship concerns, this is unacceptable. The specific book in question was removed solely for the images deemed sexually explicit by Dr. Bonk and reiterated by the board. Dr. Bonk, in your letter, it stated that you didn't disagree with the message of the book, simply the sexually explicit images that were there. Moving forward, I hope your future actions when a book is challenged reflect that, because the next challenges, if they haven't already been challenged, will come for more texts that specifically target the LGBTQIA community. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. (4.03) DC Boces budget presentation. Mr. Metzger, you have the floor. We'll do it afterwards, no big deal. Is that?
John, so there's no feedback. Why don't you turn your mic off?
Good evening, Superintendent Bob and members of the Board of Education. My name is Matt Metzger. I'm the school business official for Duchess Boces, and I'm here to present the 22-23 Boces administrative budget. If I don't bore you to death with all my numbers, and when I pass the mic over to Jason Shedeluk, our superintendent, he'll tell you about all the new exciting things that are going to happen at Duchess Boces at our new campus. The vote for the Boces budget and our board members will be Tuesday, April 26th. This year we have two board members that are running unopposed. That would be Ralph Schimento and Gully Stanford. And on that day, you'll also be voting on our administrative budget. And I just want to reiterate that that's the, really the one budget at Boces that we can't change through the year. So that's the authorized amount. And if approved, we cannot exceed that. When we think about really our structure, I like to put it in three major categories. There's the administrative, which includes the retiree health insurance expense. And this is what I just alluded to as the piece that the 13 component districts vote on. And it's important to remember that the retiree health insurance is accounted for in this service as well. My example is when you're a special ed teacher working for Boces, your health insurance costs are tied into that COSR where we're providing those services. But upon retirement, it all gets moved into the administrative budget. And that becomes quite a burden for this COSR. The other piece I'm going to speak to tonight is capital rental. And this is our annual funding for doing capital projects, routine things like roofs and repairs to keep our buildings up and running. And then there's also the rental piece, which the majority of it is for our alternative high school site, which is over on Route 44 in Poughkeepsie, our beta site. And we also do have a few rentals for in-class room, in-district classes where we have a Boces program that's held at a school district. We do pay those school districts some rent. But really, when you think of Boces, most of the time, you think of the programs and services, and that's things like the special ed COSRs, our CTI program, our educational resources. That's really the majority of the programs that we run. I always like to reiterate that at the end of the year, when we close our books down, there's a return of the surplus. We have no fund balance at Boces, so hopefully we collect more revenues and expenditures because we don't want to be in the other situation where we'd come back to you looking for more money. And then what we do is return it when we close our books down. And then it's also good to understand that Boces expenditures get Boces aid. So there'll be a little bit of return on your investment. I think it's an incentive to do some of the programs with the Boces. Just to give you a little bit of flavor, the year 21-22 really book of business with all the Boces COSRs is $21.6 million. And that includes not just services with our Boces, but also that might be cross-contracted with other ones. So when we look at the administrative budget, the non-retiree portion of the budget, this is things like the superintendent, the business office, the personnel office, the board of education, all things that are accounted for there, attorney fees. And what we can see from this year, next year to this year is actually a 6.9% decrease, which I think, I'm sure you're assuming that that's going to be a reduction in your costs. And unfortunately, that's not the case. A little spoiler right there. And I'll get into it a little bit later about, some of the loss of other revenues that we need to make up for. And as I mentioned to you before, the retiree health insurance piece, once people retire, that all comes into this administrative budget as well. This looks actually pretty favorable this year. We only have a 1.7% increase from last year on this. A big factor in that is the Dutchess Educational or Dutchess Health Insurance Consortium, which is what we have our health insurance benefits through. They've done a realignment with really the Medicare eligible health insurance. And although if you're non-Medicare, it's going to be a 5% increase next year, but the Medicare actually was lowered. And our population is such that over half of really our retirees are Medicare eligible, which is a lower health insurance rate. So when we look at the combine of the admin and the retiree, we're looking at a budget to be voted on of $6.9 million, which is really down just about a percentage point. As I mentioned to you briefly before, the funding sources, the district is allocated by ARADA, that's the resident weighted average daily attendance. This is by state law. I think it was probably done this way because it's a number that the Boces doesn't decide on. It's determined by the state. It's a common number used in state aid, but you're going to take the ARWADA of Wappingers and divide that over the total ARWADA for the county, and that'll be your share of it. And then I just wanted to mention some of the other revenues that we have. What we had done probably 10, 15 years ago was when there was a GASB statement, which was about post-employment benefits. And at that time, the Boces had accumulated a pretty large retiree accrual. And for the last 15 years, we've been using that to kind of offset the revenue that we need to collect from the components. But we've gotten to a point where that's deteriorating to a level that the contributions from the components need to be a little bit more to make up that revenue loss. And I think this slide illustrates it here, that there's a pretty substantial increase in the amount that we need to collect from the districts, and the other revenue, because we're dwindling down on that retiree accrual that was accumulated, is going down by about 20%. So when we look at the calculation to determine Wappinger's share of the administrative budget, we can see that the ARWADA for the entire county, for that matter, is really going down it's under 40,000 from the previous year. And Wappinger's has gone down 650, which is it's a bigger decrease than the majority of the county. So your increase this year for the administration fee is really up just under 6%, or an additional $83,000. And now, just to speak to the capital and rental, which I mentioned before, was the rent for the alternative high school site, as well as the district classrooms. And then there's also a transfer to capital. This capital is not to be confused with our $36.8 million project. This is really, like I said, the routine things we need to do. They might be boilers, they might be roofs, they might be paving parking lots, anything along those lines. So we see that the rent is going down substantially, and that's because our lease agreement with the alternative high school is going to end at December 31st. We will be in our new building in September, and that just allowed us a little time to vacate the facility. And the capital is going up again to $600,000. We had the contribution at $600,000 for probably, I think, probably about 10 years now, but we had reduced it last year to $150,000. We recognized that it was the third and final year of the district's portion of paying for the $36.8 million project, so we wanted to reduce that a little bit. And it was uncertain times as well last time when we came out last year. When we came out with the budget, the recovery monies were not yet available, so we really thought we were going to be in some dire straits as far as the money. So that in totals up of just under 5%. Similarly, the capital is the same calculation. It's used our WADA. Once again, Wappinger's down 650, and compared to the, the 1,500 that's down for all the components in Dutchess County, but still a $35,000 increase from the previous year. Just a little synopsis of the students that participate at our alternative ed and CTI students. So I have 43 special and alternative ed students, 20 at our Salt Point Center special education building, which is K through 8. There's 13 at our alternative high school, 8 in district, 4 at Spackenkill, 4 at Red Hook, and 2 at our Pegasus Life Skills, which is also located in our CTI building. And there's 84 in our Career and Technical Institute, spread out to the various programs, whether they be cosmetology, welding, culinary, classes like that. The district had asked me to kind of give a analysis of what we participated in. So I put this slide together. I had mentioned that 21.6 in total spending. You can see that the $4 million approximately for the $36.8 million project last year, that's the third and final payment of that. You have about $3.4 million in special ed, $2 million in learning technologies. There's the administrative piece from last year. And then just the 8.3 cross-contracted services. So those will be, although they run through our Boces bill, they're services that you're getting potentially from Putnam Northern Westchester Boces, Ulster Boces, perhaps Orange Ulster Boces. It's important that it runs through our Boces through the billing, because that's how the Boces aid is generated on that. And just to give you a little review of, these were for your services in 2021, so last school year, and we returned a surplus to Wappingers of $814,000, and the estimated Boces aid that was paid on it was 3.2 for really a turn of about $4 million. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Jason, who's going to, like I said, tell you about all the exciting things that we have moving forward. I don't think you need to take the answer.
No, I'm good. I think you also, like most business administrators, underestimate how many people really love you and want to hear you speak, because in the parking lot I saw 3 cars with bumper stickers that say "I heart business administrators." So just tell them the truth. All right. So you're appreciated. Don't ever forget it. So one of the things we've been talking about with districts and our SUPs is our duty to advocate for them on a regular basis in regards to monies. So I'm spending a lot of time in Albany because it's that time of the year. And we've made a lot of headway in regards to the idea that if a student from a local district wants to participate in a career and technical institute pathway, a district shouldn't have to steal from Mary to pay for Paul, right? You can't do this because we have to send this child here. So we've been working with congressmen and assemblymen, Jacobson and Sue, around getting some pilots out there for monies to see how those pilots would work, fully funded tuitions for students who do want to participate in CTI, but a school district just may not have the funds, and that's the reality of it. We've been very lucky so far this year. If you look at the state budget, I think schools are in a good place, and I think Governor Hochul has really grasped the idea of workforce readiness and the importance of career and technical education. So I think you're going to see some increased funding in that area over the next few years as well. We're also working with grants a lot more. We've had a partnership with Dutchess County Community College. We just finished the 21st Century Grant, just submitted a workforce development grant, and also working with the House Foundation to bring in some mechatronic equipment into the facility. So we've been working in different ways to make sure nobody is ever stuck between a rock and a hard place, that if a student does want to participate, they can, because you have the funding to do so. On our end as well, especially with COVID now, we've done a personnel audit, so we're combining a lot of positions as we move forward due to retirements. We're also performing an energy audit, so next year when we come back, I'm hoping those energy costs will be 50% less, and the year after, I'm hoping that we're completely off the grid. and those energy costs will be maybe 10%. So those are our goals. And as mentioned as well, we're really trying to partner with colleges and industry. We're starting a mechatronics or advanced manufacturing program to feed into Dutchess County. As you know, the Fishkill campus, they're building a mechatronics center. I was just with the Dutchess County president over at Hudson County Valley College, Community College, looking at their beautiful mechatronics center that we want to emulate here. That is our goal, for that Fishkill center to look just like that, and for Boces to feed right into that, so we could assure that 100% of those kids will finish that 2-year degree and go into really high-paying careers. In addition, we're getting some gratis equipment from Haas, which is the largest machinery builder in the country, as well as some satellite locations are going to be taking place on our campus. Instead of us funding, we're accepting satellite locations. So for those of you who know Lucky Orphan Horse in Dover, we're going to have a horse stable on our campus next year with about 4 or 6 horses that they can't handle because it's just too many. Those horses will be taken care of through our Ag Science program and also through our new Cobble Skill partnership with Ag Science. And then the year after, those horses will be used for therapy as well for our Salt Point Center, as well as our alternative school. One of the deficits in the county has also been transitional services for adolescents, and we saw that from the pandemic, meaning if you looked at the hospital emergency room visits of our kids, the numbers more than quadrupled during COVID. And what happens, a child will go to the hospital and they will sit in that hospital for anywhere in the waiting room for 3 to 4 hours before they see a doctor, and maybe another 2 hours waiting for a diagnosis. And in a very sterile environment. It is not a kid-friendly environment. And those kids are then sent home and expected to go right back to school the day after. There is a missing gap of transitional services. So we are looking to also have a satellite location for those students coming out of a mental health episode where they could stay with us for anywhere from 7, 14, 21, up to 30 days. An overnight program, housing anywhere from 4 to 6 beds with wraparound services. So we're working with the county around that currently. It would also make our that location a little closer to some of our districts who want to send their kids to Poughkeepsie, to those institutions, and also provide students the opportunity to see careers. So it's not only they're getting treatment, they're also getting career exposure while they're on our site. Additionally, what we are looking to do, and you'll see it on our website pretty soon, is you'll see specific laid out continuums between Boces, Dutchess County Community College, and then an industry partner. You'll see a clear pathway, and that's ending with, this is what you'll get paid. Here's how you're starting. Here's, after you graduate Boces, you will go to Dutchess County Community College. Once you're out of Dutchess County Community College, you'll be going to Hatfield Machinery, starting at $65,000 a year, full benefits. So we're really trying to draw out that continuum so our parents get a better idea and our students get a better idea of what that looks like. We already know that most of our adolescents can't see past tomorrow. So it's really up to us to draw out that visuals and help them with their long-term thinking and goals so they can see, oh, you know, if I stick with this program, here's where I'm going to end up. And that's important. One of the other things we are doing as well is we'll be inviting counselors from all the districts to visit various mechatronics centers around the area, including Ulster Boces, so they get a better idea of the growing field of advanced manufacturing and mechatronics. It is undermanned and will continue to be undermanned. We just signed a MOU with Toyota as well to bring the Toyota 10 program into our auto program. So we'll be partnering with Toyota. There's a 500,000 technician shortage across the country. For those of you who have tried to recently buy a car, you will probably have noticed that, or bring your car in for service at a dealership and they tell you it's about a 2-month wait. There's about 500,000 or more technician gap right now. So we partner with Toyota. They'll supply the dish anywhere from 10 to 15 Toyota cars, Camrys, Corollas, and also train our kids in electric cars, as well as train as creating a pipeline right to the Toyota company. We're also planning on doing the same thing for Honda using the Honda Pack program. So there's a lot of exciting things going on. We're also working as well with the Chamber of Commerce. Services have pretty much been limited to Poughkeepsie over the last 5 years. We signed an MOU with them so they can go through us and really get their services out for everybody. And obviously it'll also be aidable. A lot of those services we're working on them with are grades 4 to 8 career exploration and career readiness, because that's when you want to catch the kids. So we'll be providing a much more robust catalog for grades 4 through 8 around workforce readiness than we have in the past, and we're excited about that.
Can I get a motion to extend for 10 more minutes?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Sloshower, everybody in favor? Sorry, John, you're down there. I just figured I'd have it for you. Unanimous.
Sorry about that. So we're also tying into Dutchess County. We're running an aviation mechanics program starting next year. As you know, they built that gorgeous facility. We're tying into their program as well. So the kids will be in a 2-year aviation program, automatically go to DCC and get training in their new facility as well. And one of the more important things we've been working on is making some of our services portable, where we can bring them to you. So right now we're working on developing a food truck so we can actually bring culinary to different school districts around the county, as well as a career and technical education bus, where they can pull up to an elementary school. You could walk 2 classrooms of grade 3 students in there, and they can get a full exposure to various careers out there. And with the new technology in regards to virtual and 3D reality, we can literally have kids replacing a motor, have kids doing a surgery, have kids welding in 3D and virtual reality. So we'll be working on that over the next few months. We'll have our automotive kids strip one of the buses. We'll then have our construction kids go in and rebuild that bus with bars on the side, where we'll have computers all set up for those younger kids to come in and really explore. And currently as well, we're upgrading our cosmetology classroom. For those of you who haven't been in it, it's more of a 1970s vibe. We're trying to get it into the 2025. So we're upgrading their equipment to match what the industries have. And our construction company just signed an MOU with Habitat for Humanity. So our kids will be working with them on site for various projects. They already take service orders across the county. Within a 5-mile radius, you can sign up and ask for services for our kids to go out and take care of them. But that partnership with Habitat for Humanity will really give kids great real life exposure. So we're excited. And like I said, we're trying to do as much as possible to create careers for kids that are long lasting, not just jobs, right? And for a lot of our kids, we have to break that circle of, just like me, I had blue collar parents, 2 or 3 jobs. We want to really introduce kids to what a career, long-term career looks like. So we're excited about that. And again, we want to thank you for supporting the capital project. We are on track, and you will get your invites to the tour and the hard hats, of course, to go on that tour and take a look at what we have there. Appreciate the time. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Not really a question, comment. Can you, Mr. Metzger, explain to the community Arwada and what that means for district contributions?
Yeah, I'll do the best. It's like I said, it's a resident weighted average daily attendance. It's a state aid generated number. It's how they proportion a lot of the state aid that they generate across New York. And for this exercise, would it help if I go wide? For this exercise, it's basically the numerator and the denominator that we're going to use to determine how much Wappinger's share is. So when you look at that column there, I think probably under 22, 23, kind of the third column of numbers from the left, and you see that we've kind of bolded Wappinger, so it's 11,176.
This one.
And then the total for the Arwada for all the 13 component districts is 39,000. So you really just take that 11,000 over the 39, and that's going to come up with your share of what we need to collect in revenue from the components. That was helpful.
Eddie?
Can I just pick, just clarification? I think you answered this question. I think I asked you this either last year or 2 years ago. For Wappinger, that also includes students in private school, correct?
Correct. It's not just an enrollment number, and the weighted is important because I think the secondary students are weighted heavier than your primary students. For me, it's a number to make this calculation, but there's absolutely, yeah.
10,462 students, then they see this number 11,000. Like, well, wait a minute, what happened there? So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
What is the actual total number of students that are Boces service Wappingers?
Had that before.
How many?
Yeah, it's like 43 and 84. So.
Who controls the water? Do you control it or the state controls
The
it?
state controls it based on the information that Wappingers provides to the state based on your enrollment. I think they look at the enrollment in your elementary schools and the high school. So it's really, like I said, it's just a number that they use that, gets generated.
Determine the number month to month.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when they established these laws, this number was used so that, Boces could make like discretionary decisions within their own county to like maybe give a favor to one of the school districts. This is a number that's set. It's in the law books. It's legal, and that's what we use to, when we make the calculation.
John?
Thank you. Very exciting to hear some of the new programs or improvements to programs and the accessibility to the 4th through 8th graders. That sounds great. I'll ask that when that's coming through our district, please make sure that the Board of Education is aware of that. That would be great to see in action. You talked about that career pathway and putting that on the website. Is that something that's going to be available to students that may be technically inclined but aren't actual CTI students? In other words, is there a way that our guidance counselors and other component district guidance counselors can be aware of opportunities that our students have?
Yeah, we got lucky because we have a new principal over at CTI. Not that the former principal is also great, but Nick has great communication skills, and I know he's been working very close with the counselors and having routine meetings with them. So I know for a fact he's going to continue to have monthly meetings with them to inform about new programming and things of that nature. So yes, we'll be able to do that. And he's rather creative. So, we're also trying to run he's running a summer program this year to expose 8th graders to various careers. He also just launched a 10th grade sustainability program for 10th graders that will get kids to better understand the careers under that very large sustainability umbrella, whether that's renewable energy or whether that's composting, whether there are thousands of careers under that umbrella. So he's just launching that. I think the flyers will come out pretty soon. But we've been lucky with Nick.
And that's for rising sophomores or students that have completed a year?
That's for students that have completed.
Okay. And one final comment. Wonderful that you're working with Habitat for Humanity. If, and this would be a great problem to have, you sort of run out of capacity for places for Boces students to work with Habitat for Humanity, I just recommend that you contact Rebuilding Dutchess County, a similar organization that helps certainly a lot of veterans in our community that may need like a wheelchair accessible ramp put into their home.
So just
A suggestion, Rebuilding Together Dutchess County, their offices in Pleasant Valley.
Okay.
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion that we extend this for 5 more minutes. Are we second, all in favor?
Yeah, we're lucky enough, so part of the bonus of having a very large construction project is that you have a lot of construction companies on site. So we've been leveraging them in regards to, the perfect example is we have them clearing space in the back where we can do a heavy equipment and CDL program starting next year. They're going to loan us the heavy equipment. We're also looking at the federal government surplus list to get heavy equipment. But, instead of them paying for storage, why not just store it with us? And when you're not using it, let our kids use it and get training on it so we can feed you people you do not have and are very difficult to get. So Habitat for Humanity, she reached out to me, but I'll definitely look into that because we're working with a couple of veteran organizations, and I know our board has veterans very high on their priority list, especially for our adult schools. So we're really trying to do various programs for them, including something called NPower, which is a multi-state program that trains underserved students 18 to 25 and also veterans to become IT professionals in an 8-month program. So we'll be offering that program probably starting in about 2 months, so you should get some information on that. We'll be picking up the cost using one of our federal grants, so it'll be a gratis program, but their success rate for job placement in Texas, in New York, I used it in Jersey City, is around 90% of their people who go through that program getting a job starting at $55,000 full benefits or more. So I'd like them to bring their footprint out of New York City into the Dutchess County area virtually for the first year, and then we'll see about getting them physical space.
Maria, you have a question?
It's kind of along the lines of this. Have you started talking with some of the, I could say, the local unions, especially your construction guys? I know, like, if you have a Con Edison certification in welding or electrical, that is actually held higher than a New York State certification across the country. So, I mean, partnering with Con Ed and stuff like that, and having the local unions come in for training is also, I mean, it's a great career path for the students going forward.
So right now,
doing that.
DCC is in one of their housing facilities, is housing one of the largest electric companies in the country because they're doing retraining on Dutchess County Community College's campus, and they're staying overnight. So their dorms are full, and we're going to tie into that program as well. I mean, our biggest goal is to create kids that will be a success at Dutchess County Community College. As you know, community colleges across the nation have been suffering, not only fiscally, but also the graduation rates have decreased. So we're looking really to give them qualified candidates out of Dutchess County Boces, where those kids will complete a program and tie in directly to an industry expert in the field, because they'll be talking to industry people not only in Boces, but while they're in the program at Dutchess County. We're working on a few with, let's say, a company like Hatfield or a company like Broad Motorcycles. Often these companies will pay for students' training because that's how bad they need employees. So we're working with many companies right now that will pay for the tuition of a student to go to our adult school or go to Boces and then go to DCC because they need employees. And that's just the reality right now. And that field is a huge one, along with transportation, distribution, and logistics, as well as just your manufacturing right now. And I know that the county executive's goal is to make Dutchess County the manufacturing hub of New York, and I think we're well on our way to doing that.
Mr. Metzger, I want to thank you and Superintendent Shell. Like I said, I really appreciate your presentations. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. If you have any questions, my email is at the end of the presentation, and you can get an email off and I'll respond to you. Have a good night.
Thank you for your presentation.
The pleasure of working with your superintendent, Dr. Spahn, has been immeasurable. Honestly, he's been an unbelievable resource for us. He's always offering programs, always offering partnerships, and always offering. So I would just want to say a special thank you. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. If you look at the agenda, we will break up in the agenda, so we're going to have another presentation immediately. I'd like to have communications and announcements from the Board of Education.
Last Thursday, Dr. Bonk and I were asked to give a talk at the Dutchess School Boards Association's training program for new prospective board members. It was just an introduction to what it would be like to serve on a school board, and Dr. Bonk and I were asked to present board superintendent relationships. and it was very well received. We got a lot of compliments. So thank you very much, Dr. Bach, for going with me, and it was an enjoyable
pleasure.
night. I also, I saw the Cinderella here, right here at the junior high last week, as did many other people here. I believe Mr. Lumia and Ms. Johnson and Dr. Bonk. We were here Friday night, so I don't know who was here Saturday night, or if we missed anyone Friday night. Also, the curriculum committee, we had a very interesting presentation, two presentations, one on what the district is doing about mental health for the students, and secondly, on RTI, response to intervention, which is how they help students who are academically struggling. So those were very interesting. Thank you very much, Dr. Cardwell, for arranging them. The Wellness Committee worked on our annual survey that we send out to parents and students about the school lunch program. Ms. Crandall worked on that, as did Mr. Flusher, and we hope many of you will fill it out, because it gives us good ideas of what sort of food you want in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else? Marie?
I was going to say, the Cinderella production that we attended was absolutely great, and I don't think any of us deserve to be on this stage after that performance, unless Mr. Lumia wants to start singing. The students here put on a phenomenal performance, and honestly, the board can't hold a candle to any of our students in this district, so.
I just want to,
Keith?
thank you. In regards to Cinderella play, I was attended on Saturday evening, and one point I wanted to make is prior to COVID, when they had plays here, the sound system was off, and I know in the past years, we did have money in the budget. Thank you very much. The school received the funds, and they was able to upgrade their audio. And what that did was it did give the cast more confidence, because they knew that the audience could hear, and the audience enjoyed it. It was like going to a sports. It was just, they were cheering and they were yelling, and it was a lot of fun. And the cast and everyone, the crew stage, and also the administration did a great job with the whole program.
They were excellent. The students, the participants behind the scenes, they did a great job. I also want to thank the teachers who work with these students. Phenomenal. So congratulations to all of them. I also want to congratulate the 15 students from Van Wyck Junior High School who will be participating in the 2022 Science Olympiad State Tournament, which will be held in Syracuse. And also like to thank Mr. Lakima for organizing the school safety assembly. I attended it with Dr. Bunk and RCK. I felt that the goals of the assemblies were admirable, namely making students aware of the seriousness of false reporting and students' expectations that if you see or hear something, they should say something. So once again, congratulations to Mr. Lakima, and of course, that's a speech given Mr. Bunk, Dr. Bunk, excuse me, John.
Thank you, Mr. Lumia. I also wanted to make mention of those assemblies, which I know took place earlier this week at our high schools for our freshmen and seniors, and I believe the sophomores and juniors will have those following the break.
That's correct. The sophomores and juniors will have them following the break. Next week we'll be over at Van Wyck and Wappingers Junior High School. We'll start the assemblies there, and then eventually we'll get back to the high schools. If we need to go back to Van Wyck, we'll go back to Van Wyck for a second one, and then we'll conclude with Orchard View. So all of our secondary students will have seen those assemblies, and I think it's important to mention that not only did Mr. Okima do a phenomenal job of organizing these presentations, but our law enforcement community is to be commended. And as you know, we have 6 municipalities within our district, and all of them have been participating in a regular basis in ensuring that we meet our top priority, which is student safety. So again, I want to thank them. I want to thank our administrators for leading the presentations. I want to thank our school resource officers, and I want to thank our students. One of the things that I heard upon exiting one of the buildings was a staff member asking the student, "What'd you think about the assembly?" And in one word, they said, "Powerful." and that's what it's all about. So, thank you.
You're welcome. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, I became aware that one of our high school students, Charles Sweeney, wanted to recognize him. He was named for the Taconic region, the New York State PTA Youth Humanitarian Award winner, which is given each year in memory of Stanley Marcus. So one of our students is representing the Taconic region and is advancing to the state competition. So again, congratulations to Charles Sweeney.
So the president pointed out to me to mention personally, he's absolutely right, the school resource officers that did participate. And from the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, who's over Boise Ketchum High School, I'd like to thank Sergeant Riley. And from the East Fishkill Police Department, I would like to thank Officer White for their involvement in both of those presentations, along with other individuals in law enforcement throughout our community. So a special thanks to them, absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Bunk. 5.01, Superintendent recommended somebody. So it's all yours, Dwight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shouten. Thank you, Ms. Crandall. So some of this you've seen before. We've done this presentation. It's been more nondescript with some of the potential percentages and some of the things that will be included in the budget for next year. This one hopefully will be pretty close to the actual product once we find out what our state funding is. As you know, April 1st is right around the corner. We do not have a state budget. So we are operating off of the governor's proposed budget, and I am hopeful at the very least that that will be approved by the Senate and the legislature, if not add additional dollars to that. So we're going to walk through it. Obviously, you know the members of the Board of Education, President Lumia, Vice President Kellen, Trustee Cahill, Trustee Odoms, Trustee Johnson, Trustee Sloshower, Trustee McFarland, Trustee Spencer, and Trustee Morgan. I need to recognize and thank the members of the Central Office Administration, Mr. Darren Lokima, our Assistant Superintendent for Compliance and Information Systems, Dr. Michelle Cardwell, Assistant Superintendent Curriculum and Instruction, the financial guru, Kristen Crandall, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Business Development, Mr. Richard Zip, Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services and Accessible Education, Renee Harris, our Director of Human Resources, and Ronald Gross, our Director of Facilities and Operations, and the individual who runs the Wappinger Central School District, our District Clerk, and the Secretary to the Superintendent, Alberta Pedro. And I say that in full seriousness. So keywords in the budget process, and we've talked about this before, you may be familiar with this. What is the budget? It's how much we spend. It's the balance of the revenues and the expenses, and they better balance. The tax levy, the amount received in property taxes by the school district. State aid, the amount received from the fiscal year in the enacted state budget. Other revenue, other financial resources that we receive at the local level, such as interest earnings, in addition to state funding. And what is the assigned fund balance amount intended for specific assignment for the district to reduce the burden to the taxpayer? And you will see that in the recommended budget that I'm going to be presenting this evening, although it won't be the final one, we are recommending quite a savings to the taxpayers, and we'll get to that as we go through the presentation. So again, we talked about the budget deadline, April 1st. We want to make sure that we balance the social and emotional health supports for our students and our staff, that we make sure that we have our students and our staff that are mentally and healthy, and that they're well, and that we continue to maintain the current staffing levels and educational opportunities that we have in these most challenging times. The experiences of COVID have impacted people negatively, some more than others, and it's something that it's going to take us at least the next 5 years to try to get back to where we were prior to that. And I'm talking about social and emotional, and I'm also talking about academic performance. When you have students that, and some of them that had not been in the school building for nearly 2 years, it has an impact, not only academically, but socially and emotionally as well. So if we can move on to the next slide. So the Consumer Price Index, known affectionately as the CPI, 4.7%. Since the Consumer Price Index exceeds 2%, the district will utilize 2% in the tax cap formula. Completion of the tax cap calculation has resulted, and this is our tax cap number, this is the magic number for Wappingers, 1.38%. That is the maximum allowable tax levy increase. It's different for other districts. Ours is 1.38%. Currently, the budget that I'm going to be recommending to the Board of Education, and it may change slightly based upon what happens with New York State final numbers, we will have a budget that I will recommend that will increase the tax levy by 0.83%. That is 0.55% less than the allowable tax levy increase. And you may be saying, well, some of our local municipalities have had 0% tax increases, and you would be correct. You would be correct. But I think it's important to know that our local municipalities have very little, if anything, that they are mandated services to provide to their residents, where in education that is not the case. We are mandated by the state to provide services. We have to incorporate that in our numbers, and we'll go through that when we talk about it. So the New York State Governor's executive budget proposal, what did it do? It reinstated the foundation aid formula, which was big, to the tune of how many dollars, Ms. Crandall?
Well, right now, it's even only at 50%, so I would say in excess of $4 million just for this year.
That's a lot of money. Thank you very much. That's important. Reimbursable aids were not amended in this proposal from New York State. Currently, the district is budgeting, as I said before, we're using the governor's executive proposal. I will have an update, hopefully on April 7th. Hopefully at that time there will be an approved state budget, and I will be able to provide you with what will be pretty close to a final budget recommendation for the Board of Education. So how did we come up with this? Well, we connect with our community. We have our mission. We have our core values. The Board of Education has its values and goals, senior staff discussion and goals, and community input. I get quite a few emails. I read the emails. The emails are important. They have some great information. They tell us how you feel and what you'd like to see offered to our students and in our school district. And we try the best that we can to put that in the final equation. And this year, I'm proud to say that we've been able to do that. If we can move on to the next slide. So you're looking at a budget of $264 million, 659. Tax levy, approved tax levy is $179,700,000. Proposed tax levy, $181,192,000. So the levy to levy increase from last year to this year, $1.4 million, which is 0.83%. That will be the levy to levy increase. And if you take a look at the budget, you'll see the numbers accordingly there as well. It is not only below the tax cap, but it is much below the tax cap. And I can tell you that that is the first time in the history of this district since the tax cap came into inception in 2012 that the district, that the superintendent's budget has been below the tax cap. And we've been able to do that, and in addition to that, we've been able to add the following services. 10.4 positions to support social and emotional health for students and staff, social workers, ENL teachers, special education counselors, office staff, safety and security officers. We do not have them currently at the junior highs in this budget. We will have one school security officer at Van Wyck. We will have another one at Wappingers Junior High School. In addition to that, we will also have not only one school resource officer at John Jay and Ketchum, we will have a school resource officer at Van Wyck, Wappingers Junior, Ketchum, and John Jay. 4 custodial positions for district buildings, as well as overtime for activities and event coverage. adding boys volleyball and girls modified lacrosse teams, a marching band at Roy C. Ketchum High School and John Jay High School, additional 1% personnel staffing to assist with the increased reporting needs related to human resources, a district-level building project of a maximum of $100,000, the restoration of funding for school-level supplies and activities, including field trips, allocated funds for continued implementation of universal pre-K program, increased funding for preventative maintenance of athletic fields and facilities.
Dr. Bong, could I just add one thing?
You most certainly may. Go right ahead, Ms. Graham.
Wonderful. We just had our Boces presentation this evening.
We did.
And that Boces presentation included numbers of students. We heard board members ask about that. We just want to be clear that the budget that we're showing you here will include all of our students. We have students and programs at many locations beyond Dutchess County Boces. So our presentation will include all of our Boces expenses, not just the Dutchess County Boces ones.
Very good, and we thank you for that clarification. So here again, if we take a look at this chart, a little historical perspective. 17-18, the tax cap was 0.95, the tax levy was 0.95. 18-19, tax cap was 2.92, tax levy was 2.92. 19-20, tax cap was 1.42, levy was 1.42. You see it's the same comparison in 2021, 21, 22, and then you get to next year's budget, tax cap 1.38%, the tax levy recommendation is 0.83%. So where does that money, excuse me. So if we take a look at the revenue by source here in a $265 million budget, basically 68% of it comes from the proposed tax levy increase. 28.67% is the proposed New York State aid. So when you talk about the money that we get from New York State, that is just under 29% of our overall budget. Fund balance 1.42%, and then there's other revenue of 1.45%.
Dr. Baum, just to add as well, in the past, we've seen those numbers for proposed New York State aid be closer to 24 or 25%, and the proposed levy being closer to 71%. So the shift in aid this year with the addition of foundation aid and the reduction in the tax levy has caused those numbers to change a bit.
And there's your $4 million right there. Thank you, Ms. Crandall. So the expenses, 50.73% of our budget is spent on salaries. It should be. We are a people business. 31.67% is spent on benefits for those people. Again, we are a people business. 8.50 is contractual, 7.20 Boces, 1.62 supplies, and then equipment comes in at a lowly 0.06. Expenses by category, again, one of our objectives, teaching and learning. About 54% of our budget is spent on that. 32.53% is spent in undistributed. And Ms. Crandall, could you give a little definition of undistributed and what that may encompass?
Sure. Undistributed portion of the budget includes the benefits for our staff as well as our debt service and our bus bond anticipation notes. So it's those items that are extraneous, but also pertains majority of it to those benefits.
Very good, thank you. 8.01% general support, 5.59% transportation. So what to expect next? We continue to look forward to questions, comments, and feedback. You know the website budget at WCSDNY.org. We look at those emails on a regular basis and respond. We will continue with presentations and reports. We post them to the Board of Education section of the website. Frequently asked questions posted to the website within 2 business days. We continue with our educational updates to our learning community. The Legislative Action Committee, which I have to thank all of the members of the board and all of the members of the Legislative Action Committee for all of the advocacy work that they've done. I believe that it's no secret that we've seen the state numbers increase based, as you said, to the tune of about 5% higher than it's been in the past. I believe members in the state and our legislator have basically heard what we've been asking for, and to this point they've delivered. So I want to thank the Legislative Action Committee. We will continue our community presentations. We will do a presentation at each school for the faculty and staff. We will have a presentation at John Jay High School. We will have a presentation at RCK High School for the communities, and we will also be doing presentations at the town of East Fishkill Town Board meeting, the town of Wappinger Town Board meeting, and the town of Poughkeepsie Town Board meeting. And again, I am confident that moving forward, that this budget, should it be accepted, will continue the course that maintains a safe learning environment for all of our students and our staff. And again, I can't thank Ms. Crandall enough and the senior team enough for all of their efforts to make this a reality that I have the ability to present to our Board of Education, hopefully next week. So with that, I thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sherman.
Thank you, Dr. Bunk and Christian, for the presentation. And I'm glad that the tax cap is 0.83, I guess. It's recommended. That's incredible. Thank you for doing such great work.
Just to clarify, Mr. Lumia, that's the levy-to-levy increase. The tax cap is actually 0.55% of that.
Thank you.
That is correct, Trustee Morgan.
You're 100% correct, Morgan.
Thank you for accentuating the point.
All right, does anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Marie? Are you sure?
I'm positive Mary's good.
How about anybody else? With that being said.
Okay, resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated. 6.02, 6.03, and addendum, 6.04, 6.05, 6.06, 6.07, 6.08, 6.09, 6.10, 6.11, 6.12, and 6.13.
Motion?
So moved.
Make a second. New business 7.01, approval of legal notice for the May budget vote and board members election.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the legal notice for the May 17th, 2022 budget vote member election as stated.
Motion?
So
Eddie, second. Peggy, all in favor? Unanimous. 7.02, second reading.
Hereby approves the second reading of and adopts the following policies based upon the first reading by the board and the recommendation of the policy committee. As
Aye. Unanimous. Any additions to the agenda? Seeing none. 9.01, one comment from the public. Anybody from the public want to make a comment at this point, which is not an agenda item, please come forward.
Hold on.
Oh, wait a minute.
Sorry.
What were they?
I'm tall too. Good evening. My name is Jessica Trabick, and I'm the president of the Dutchess County Central Labor Council. I'm a graduate of the Wappinger Central School, John Jay, Van Wyck, and Fishkill Plains. And I currently have two daughters in Oak Grove Elementary, and I also have a son that will be attending Oak Grove Elementary. I'm a mom, I'm a member of a union, and I'm a taxpayer, and I'm also a member of this community. When I heard about the low wages that the nurses paid, I was shocked. They're not even making a living wage. They are the first line of defense during the pandemic, which has increased their workload with all the guidelines that they must adhere to. Their positions are vital to our children and our schools. Children go to the nurse's office for various reasons, and they are always there to help support our children, whether it be from getting hurt, administering medicine, or just, some kids just need a hug every now and then. I know I even went down to the nurse in high school just to have like a few minutes to myself. They deserve the respect of the board and our community. The Dutchess County Central Labor Council asks that the Wappinger Central School District keep these nurses in mind when allocating the budget and bargaining for a fair contract. This way, they'll be able to provide for their own families. Adding more nursing positions would really benefit our children, just as we are adding 10 positions for social and emotional support and custodial positions. We need to take care of our nurses as they take care of our children. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to express my outrage at the poverty level wages this district is paying not only to food service workers, maintenance workers, and bus drivers, but to the dedicated nurses at Wappinger Central School District. Historically, the job nurses perform primarily have been done by women. Research shows women are paid 70 cents on the dollar as compared to men. The nurses at Wappinger Central School District should be given respect, dignity, and treated fairly. Speaking as a parent, the focus at budget time should be on the people who care for our children outside of our home. And the priority should be our children and the staff. And it seems the district does not have these priorities correct. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Dean Corey. I'm a resident of Wappingers Falls. I graduated through the Wappinger School District along with my daughter, my wife, and my sister. We are very proud of the school district that we came through. And we also believe that everybody in the school district should be paid fairly. If you work in this school district, you should have to live in this community and be a part of your community. And we need that. We need the healthcare in our schools, and the nurses are a key part of that. I'm not going to do it alone. Jessica and Teresa have spoken eloquently on it. I just want to let you know I back up 100%. And I have been in this district. I know what it is, and I would like to keep it a nice district. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ted. I'm a resident of Wappingers. I have one child that attends Royce Ketchum High School. One of the things that concerns me, and I have to be totally honest with you, okay? And I know that sometimes the truth is hard to hear, but what I would like to hear the board seriously consider when you people, and I hate to say it, because I do have a high respect for people that go out and try and give our children the best education every day, okay? But the narcissistic attitude of the board that I hear on a constant basis every single month, of everybody patting themselves on the back and everything else about what's going on in the school district. There are a lot of things that you do have to pat yourselves on the back with. That's fine. But what I never hear is, what about the parents of the school district? I never hear any acclaim for that. They are the ones that bring the children here to the events that happen. In the background, it's the parents raising these children, not the school. Let's get one thing straight here. Children are not wards of the state. Those are our children. We have rights. People know what they are. I'm not saying the Board of Education does not do a good job. I think on many stances, you do. I'm not saying that you're not. But I think that if there was a little bit more respect given to the parents who are raising the good children of this school district, I think maybe we would get more parents to wind up out here in the audience. And the other thing I feel is when I look at the budget that you proposed, you don't think it's a little high? You don't think that people in this state are leaving in droves because of the tax burden that we have, I think we have to start rethinking about where we're spending some of this money. As what a couple of people up here just said, we have people in the school district that, yes, they should be paid more. We have counselors that you say are for the children's mental health, all right? Let me stop you at the door with that, okay? Yes, it is part of the school's job to make our children safe, but it is the parents' job to make sure that they are safe all the way around. What I mean by that is this: it is our job, not the school district's, our job as parents to make sure that these children of ours, not the state's, ours, are mentally sound. And I think if we did something like maybe instead of spending all this money on counselors and everything else, maybe we got a couple of rabbis in, maybe a couple of priests, whatever. A couple of maybe religious-based people here, that they would be able to maybe help the children a little bit more than just the state themselves. If they would just try and get the parents involved in it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you for your comments. Then motion to adjourn. All in favor? All right, then. Thank you.
Mary said that. I always try to Mary. I know, right?